Back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined as always by my brother and the other great host of this show, Nick. And Nick, got the 49ers in the Rams' home opener. But first and most importantly, how are you, my good brother?
I'm good. I'm sitting here convincing myself that an 0-3 start isn't the worst thing in the world. But who's to say that even happens? I'm excited for this week regardless.
You're optimistic? You're going to be talking to a win in this episode?
If you can do that, then you should run for Congress.
Oh, I love it. Well, I think a lot of 49ers fans are overly excited about the opportunity to be able to fully consume SoFi Stadium. And this is the report that we're getting from Vivid Seats. It's going to be about 62% 49ers fans. Looks like it's about 90% in that picture, which is a snapshot back to last year. So I think a lot of Niners fans are very vocal, and rightfully so, right? They've had the Rams' number in the regular season, obviously not in the NFC Championship in 2021, and they're really vocal over the fact that there's going to be a potential silent count in this game upcoming on Sunday. But I think that they forget that in the NFC Championship, the Rams dealt with the same exact situation. So no major concerns outside of the injuries, but we're going to jump into a lot of really interesting facts in relation to offensive efficiency, offensive line efficiency, the injuries, the reinforcements that the Rams are getting back, Brian Flores' defense, which just put the 49ers offense in a tizzy in this past Sunday.
They clamped them down.
And you know what? Brian Flores did the same thing to Jared Goff back in 2020 when he was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And a couple of other things in relation to defense and a couple of keys to victory. But first and most importantly, I want to make sure that you guys are Ram it. Like and subscribe. Tell us what we could do better. Sound off in the comments. We want to hear all your guys' thoughts, your opinions. We read every single thing that you guys write back to us. So keep the interaction going. We've greatly appreciated it over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and do not forget to check out Autograph, the new app Autograph. They're our sponsor. They give diehard fans like you a one-stop shop for all the best fan content for your favorite team. Obviously the Rams, but you can plug in your favorite baseball team, basketball team. It's really great, and then they will have a curated page for you as soon as you log on, all that information. For example, if you listen to the RAMSBROS podcast anywhere, you can, but when you listen on the Autograph app, you earn coins to redeem for amazing rewards, including free stuff, discounted tickets, no-fee tickets, A-plus memorabilia, and merch. Download the app at the App Store or Google Play Store today for free. And if you use our referral code, which is a new referral code, it's not the one that we had before. New referral code is RAMSBROS, which is way cooler than the B37P shirty Sydney. Use RAMSBROS as our referral code, and then you will be signed up. You will help us out. You'll help yourself out by listening to stuff on that app. It's a great place to be.
Yes, good stuff. All right, let's jump into this one because we got a lot to talk about. So obviously Rams 49ers, it's live from SoFi Stadium, Matthew Stafford versus Brock Purdy. The injury report, I think, is what everybody wants to talk about just to kind of kick us off. As of right now, the IR features left guard / center Jonah Jackson, wide receiver Puka Nacua, center left guard Steve Avila, left tackle Joe Noteboom, Connor McDermott, 7th rounder from this year, KT Leviston. And then on defense, we got Darius Williams, Trey Tomlinson, John Johnson, Darion Kendrick, Laurel Murchison. And then in terms of the pup, obviously Tyler Higbee is still on the physically unable to perform list. Cooper Kupp is not going on the IR, but it's due to lack of IR spots that are made available to your roster. But he was seen in a cast today, which is
I didn't know that. I did not know that. I thought we were like in a good place with Cooper Kupp, and not that, hey, your IR list is 100% full.
Yeah, we're fully booked. Actually, you can't stay on this list as of this weekend.
My gosh.
Yep, that's
like every time I want to go to the West Drift.
That is that's West Drift. It's a great place to play if you like to play a little par 3 golf as well, Nick, which you and I like to dabble in. That is just, it's really tough to swallow, right? And then outside of all of those players that I just listed, Davis Allen did not practice today. Joshua Carty is dealing with a groin injury, so they actually brought in Tanner Brown as reinforcements for Joshua Carty in case for whatever reason he can't go. Cooper Kupp, we already mentioned. Kobe Durant did not practice today due to that toe injury that's been lingering. And Kevin Dotson was limited. I'm already out of breath just going through all these. It's just ridiculous.
It's just
So
yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, just last year, if you think about what happened to the Bengals, where Burrow went down, and it was just ended up being the year from hell, and they had all these injuries just like stacking on top of each other. And that's what it feels like. It just doesn't really seem fair because before it was the Bengals the year before that it was us again. So it's just happening so close to right after that 2022 season when everything was so bad. It's just really it's tough. It's tough to watch.
It's definitely tough to swallow. And then obviously the conversations about Cooper Kupp are coming up, Matthew Stafford's future with the Rams. It seems like a lot of analysts are talking about trading Matthew Stafford, whether it's to
Yeah,
the Raiders or Mina Khan's is talking about it. Chase Daniel was talking about Dan Orlovsky. It's like it's all over the place in terms of Matthew Stafford potentially being traded and the Rams blowing it up. And we're 2 games into the season. Let's kind of pump the brakes just because of injury. We're not going to blow up the whole roster. But Matthew Stafford's situation will be reevaluated next year. They could always rework Cooper Kupp's deal, although I do think the injuries are a concern. All right, I think it's something you got to kind of look inward, and you got to try to think to yourself, like, is this a good situation for us to have moving forward, despite the fact that he's incredible off the field and is a mentor for a lot of these players?
Yeah, Dean is talking about the Cooper Kupp injury history and where he's at right now in his career, not just like the overall injuries for the team.
Yeah.
Because our dad texted us today and he said, do you think, maybe that like it would have been a better idea to give Jalen Ramsey the money as opposed to Cooper Kupp? And I mean, Ramsey was injured last year too, so I don't even know how you want to play that game, but it is something that to think about where I'm not sure if Cooper Kupp is going to be playing football for 2 more years. So it's something you have to like really think about, where could he be in 2 years? Like, is it on the Rams? Is it on a team that needs somebody to fill in that Odell Beckham role like that we kind of had in the 2021 season? Because long term, it's the injuries are concerning. It's something you have to think about as a Rams fan.
For sure. It's definitely something to keep in your mind, but let's kind of see how he recovers, how he bounces back, and see what the Rams' season nets out to be before we get into that conversation. And 2, like the way that the offensive line is going to be structured this week, you got, and I think it's a good segue, Nick, into a couple different talking points. Left tackle, Alaric Jackson, left guard, Logan Bruss, potentially, center, Bo Limmer, right guard, Kevin Dotson, if he's able to go, and then right tackle, Rob Havenstein. So you are getting some reinforcements back. You are getting some help back in terms of guys that are going to be starting this week. You got 2 healthy offensive tackles who were supposed to be starters in the beginning of this season. Alaric dealing with the suspension, and then Rob Havenstein dealing with the injury in week 1. He was back last week. But what Matthew Stafford's going to be dealing with in this game specifically in terms of players that are going to be backfilling for Cooper Kupp, for Puka Nacua, you're going to get Jordan Whittington in the Cooper Kupp role, predominantly the F, aka the slot. You're going to get Tyler Johnson in Puka Nacua's role, which is the Z, and then you're going to get Demarcus Robinson in the X, which is not anything that they're overly unfamiliar with, right? These are all players that are capable. We saw Jordan Whittington in the preseason. We got to be able to see how he does it in the regular season. But they also brought in Quintez Cephas onto the practice squad. So it's a 6'1", big-bodied receiver. He's only 26 years old, and he was catching touchdowns from Matthew Stafford in his rookie year with the Detroit Lions. And it was actually Stafford's last year in Detroit. But there's another big-body guy that you could potentially bring in. He's predominantly an X receiver, but has a little bit of inside-outside versatility. So you're getting some wide receiver reinforcements. You're also going to get Akella Witherspoon in a better spot versus what he was in this time last week. He had a veteran designation on the practice squad. So, and that's just the Rams. But what's going on with the 49ers, they're going to be missing Deebo Samuel. They're going to be missing Christian McCaffrey, who's dealing with that Achilles injury. He's got tendonitis in his Achilles, which is tough to recover from as a running back. But they're also getting some reinforcements back on the back end in Tali Fuaga. And one thing I just want to note before we move on to a couple of things we're going to chat about offensively. Brock Purdy last year, do you know what his record was without Deebo Samuel in the lineup?
It was 0-3.
That's correct. And now you got Brandon Ayuk as a primary target. Brandon Ayuk as a primary target, and Juwan Jennings. Those are your 2 go-to guys outside of George Kittle. And obviously the run game's been great for San Francisco, but Ayuk and Jennings have as many targets combined as Deebo Samuel has this year. So 19 versus 19. And I think Ayuk really needs to step up and start earning some of that $4 million or that 4-year, $120 million extension that he forced into the hands of the 49ers. So Go ahead.
It's a lot. I mean, it's really two banged up teams. We're definitely more banged up, but you feel like you're kind of catching them at a good time. It's our first home game, so you hope that we can come out hot. And what we saw from Demarcus Robinson last year was amazing. And from the preseason, like one of the only highlights was Whittington. So hope is not entirely lost with this game to cover. I think to win, maybe hope is all entirely lost just because they are the San Francisco 49ers and their run game, doesn't matter who you throw back there, has been fantastic this year. And they're coming off of a loss. So it just feels like, and they have owned us for quite some time. It does feel like this is just, it feels like a scheduled L right now, just based on injuries and like where our team is at.
Totally understand. Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to try.
Anything is possible.
To keep. Yeah, it is. It's any given Sunday, right? I'm going to try to keep convincing you that there is an opportunity for at least the Rams to cover. So two things. One, we got the secret weapon. Jimmy G is also back. I forgot to mention him with Alaric coming off the suspension. Jimmy G is back at practice. So you're going to have Jimmy G, the secret weapon, on the sideline backing up Matthew Stafford. So there's no more concern if Stafford comes off the field. You got to deal with Stetson Bennett. Plus, he also knows the San Francisco 49ers defensive schemes pretty well over the past couple of years, as he's kind of gone through some transitional periods with the Raiders, but also with Kyle Shanahan in 2020 and 2021. So you got some reinforcement in terms of backup quarterback who understands what Kyle Shanahan might potentially be throwing at you. And then offensively, I think there's a couple of things that are true, right? Because we're talking about the Niners offense right now. I think Kyle Shanahan's really missing Clint Kubiak, who's now in New Orleans, and he's calling plays in New Orleans for Derek Carr. I was going to say David Carr. And he's going to get absolutely zero credit when Dennis Allen wins Coach of the Year this year. And I think that there's, in terms of the offense and the way that and I think the way that the offense is structured, like it's missing some real-time ability to adjust. And I think that's where Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, sometimes they fall flat. They're obviously great play callers, but their game plan is so damn important to be able to implement. And they need some stability in terms of guys that can be there in their ear to adjust in real time. And I think that's kind of missing. And what Brian Flores did in Miami or in Minnesota last week against the Niners was incredible. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit too. But the second piece outside of Shanahan missing Clint Kubiak, I think is, we gave Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford really a ton of praise for being able to simplify the offense in previous years with good play design for Jared Goff. And Matthew Stafford last year, post-bye with the implementation of the pistol, really simplified things for the offense. You don't have to do a ton of decision-making. It's really just good play design. You execute the play, you move the ball forward, you stay out of awkward down and distances. But without Cooper Kupp, you got to reimagine things again.
Yeah, again, you really have to. Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to see. They tried to establish it last week, but that game got so out of hand that they weren't able to. The run game, you're going to have to find a way to get the run, because look at what they did in Green Bay with LaFleur last week and Malik Williams. That's what won them that game, was establishing the run early. They didn't score that many points last week, but it didn't matter because they were in control of time of possession by 60% in that game.
Yeah, I mean, you saw, some of the RPO stuff. You saw some of the really simple play design. You saw Josh Jacobs look like he did when he was a rookie or a sophomore. We obviously don't have all the answers in terms of some offensive adjustments that are going to be made, but being able to simplify, alleviate some of the pain of the players that are on IR right now, implementing well-timed, innovative play design can be the difference in some of these games, right? And time of possession, Nick, as you mentioned, simplify for Matthew Stafford, keep him upright, and don't force him to do all the damn work, right? Pre-snap and post-snap, and being able to have to manipulate linebackers and throw no-look passes and change arm angles. Get him easy completions and get the offense going to also keep the defense off the field. And this is how the two offenses stack up right now, Nick. It's really another really good segue to the defense that we're going to talk about in terms of stopping the run. But points per game, the Rams are 28th. Niners are 9th with 24.5. Passing yards per game, Rams are right behind the San Francisco 49ers, 266.5 yards to 275. Rushing yards per game, Rams are 31st with 68 total. So they're not running the ball well, and they're not stopping the run well. And the Niners, meanwhile, are averaging 141 rushing yards per game. Total defensive sacks, Rams are 27th with 3. Niners are 16th with 5. And then turnovers is 2 versus 1. So that's just where the offense stacks up. But I think the defense and some of the approaches and adjustments Chris Shula could make is really what's going to be in the difference of this game.
Two really scary things: when you can't stop the run and you can't run yourself, you have to find like creative ways to score, and you got to do it quick because you're not going to have that much time on the field. And it's going into this game without Puka and Cooper. It's just, we're in week 3 here, and we're already dealt that hand. It's just really, it's completely gut wrenching to think that they're going to have to try to find ways to do that without those two guys. But hey, I mean, you still got Kyren Williams, who has yet to blow up this year. So hopefully this is the game.
Yeah, potentially some implementation to Blake Corum, who looks like he's got some fresh legs as well, too. But again,
hold on. Let me just say one more thing about the run game.
Yeah, please.
It is really difficult to have a solid run game without a solid offensive line, which we have not had. So hopefully with the returns of, some of our tackles, there is a path where Kyren can really shine. Yeah,
and this isn't just run blocking efficiency, but this is just pass protection, just to give you a view of where the Rams sit amongst the remainder of the NFL. They're all the way back in terms of pass protection ability. But you would assume like some of the duo stuff that they did last year that made them so versatile, outside of just the zone runs and some of the reads that they make offensively to kind of scheme up the run game. It just, that stuff's missing because you don't have your 1,000-pound weight-bearing wall up front that we were talking about before the season had started. And the 3 guys in the middle are the ones that are going to be most responsible for the double teams and being able to progress the offense and keep them out of bad down and distances, which forces Stafford to, have to force things. And that's where the offense really kind of gets stagnant. And this is just a snapshot in terms of what Matthew Stafford has been doing with basically nothing. Adjusted EPA per play leaderboard of 2024, Matthew Stafford is 6th overall. So he's down his 2 top wide receivers. He's down almost half of his offensive line. He's got a running back right now who I think a lot of Rams fans are kind of waiting for the moment that Blake Corum is going to step into the offense just for the ability to make people miss. So that's where it gets really difficult. But transitioning over to the defense, because I think this is such an interesting conversation. Brian Flores' defense, and Nick, I already mentioned it, but you remember the Dolphins game of 2020 where Jared Goff was picked off twice. He fumbled twice. The Rams were heavy favorites in that game. They were rebounding from 2019. It was the COVID year.
I remember everybody telling me that Jared Goff we are done with him. He should retire, put in Wolford. Yeah, that was a big day on Twitter.
You could thank Brian Flores for that, because what a lot of teams are doing right now, they're trotting out the too high shell. And a lot of the time that's built around just trying to prevent the explosives. And it's really just kind of playing conservative football on the back end to avoid getting beat. But the Rams are heavily reliant on cover 3 right now, and they're running it at a 50% rate. And that's where Brian Flores is a killer, because he makes everything look like what the quarterbacks are used to seeing and studying pre-snap. And they'll just go ahead and they'll shift from too high shell from zone to cover 2 man to cover 6. They could be in quarters. They could rotate to single high. And there's not one coverage that Brian Flores relies on too heavily once the ball is snapped. It is a nightmare for a quarterback. It is Jared Goff's worst nightmare. It is Brock Purdy's worst nightmare. And it is everybody else that's on the Minnesota Vikings schedule moving forward, especially now because Brian Flores was able to draft the personnel to fit the mold of what he's looking to do.
Yeah. So I remember when he got that job, I thought exclusively that they gave him that job because Jared Goff was in his division and the Lions were like the team.
Yeah.
Goff ended up beating him, I think, twice last year, so it didn't really seem to affect him. I mean, he's grown as a quarterback since, but Purdy is still there. He's still developing. He's still learning. Was he on like year 3 right now?
Yeah, he's year 3.
Yeah, year 3. I mean, like, you're going to be able to get, people with that. I think Stafford also should be totally fine.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a sneak peek in terms of
when they play the Vikings. Sorry.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not playing Brian Flores' Vikings this week.
Right, exactly. And I just want to give you guys frame of reference for what we're looking at in terms of the Rams' defense year over year. So last couple of years under Raheem Morris, you could see where the blitz rate was. It was actually higher in 2021. It's since dipped down in 2022 to 26.8%. In 23, it dipped down to 24.3%. And now with Chris Shula just in 2 games, it's dipped down to 15.8%. And you lost Ernest Jones. You lost Aaron Donald. You don't have Von Miller. You don't have Leonard Floyd. You don't have any of that personnel. So you would think that they're just trying to do a lot of things on the back end in order to kind of cover up for some of those inefficiencies. And the one thing I really wanted to point out that Brian Flores' team is not doing, that the 49ers are not doing, because they're last in the league in terms of missed tackles, or I guess consider it first. I think they've only missed 6 tackles so far, the Niners this year. The Rams have missed 33 tackles. It is half the amount of tackles that they missed in the 2022 season. They missed 67 tackles in the 2022 season. 24, they've already missed 33. So this defense is definitely struggling, which is why you need somebody that's innovative, which the illusion of complexity is one of Sean McVay's mantras, which Chris Shula has been aboard for Wade Phillips. He's been aboard for Raheem Morris, Brandon Staley. Like, he's been here for all this time. So you got to be able to create this picture, right, pre-snap that isn't the same picture, and be able to rotate on the back end so that these quarterbacks can't have more time to process. And the way that Brian Flores changes the picture, he so heavily relies on the versatility in his secondary, knowing where they're supposed to be, which is a massive issue for the Rams this week, or last week rather, against the Cardinals. They had no idea where they needed to be. There was confusion, lack of communication. But as I mentioned, emphasizing the illusion of complexity in Minnesota is so important. You're switching. You're not allowing quarterbacks to get comfortable ever. We're going to send 6 guys at you. And then on a max blitz, we're going to send 6. And then on the next series, the same down and distance, he's going to send max coverage. He's going to make things look completely different from one another. And the secondary is constantly in rotation to be able to prevent the quarterback from knowing what's going on.
A part of me thinks, because they rely so heavily on this cover 3, like, either Shula isn't ready to be making these like calls, or he just doesn't really trust these young guys to come in here and be able to know exactly what to do on all of those different, schemes. So they like that cover 3 is their like safety. So it's like, okay, this will at least not get us killed right here if we run this. And then, lo and behold, last week we got absolutely slaughtered in the worst loss in McVay's career.
I think you're perfectly spot on, right? Because you got guys like Cam Curl and Quentin Lake all the way back, right, playing a little bit of center field in the cover 3. But you brought in guys like Trey White, and you brought in guys like Darius Williams to be able to figure this stuff out. And Darius Williams is hurt, and Trey White is not the same player that he once was. So I think the vision is not matching up with the personnel that's on the field, which is an issue. And the front, let's talk about the Vikings front for a second, because they just destroyed Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to do this.
No, I mean, we're likely not. But I mean, the front generating pressure via well-timed blitzes. It's not AD, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd coming at you. It's Jonathan Grenard. It's Andrew Van Winkle. It's Ivan Pace Jr. It's Blake Cashman. Like, these are not all pro caliber players, although Jonathan Grenard's having a great year. But they had Purdy and the Niners in so many difficult down and distances. They were 2 of 10 on 3rd down, only 1 of 3 on 4th down. Brock Purdy was sacked 4 times and completed 5 of 10 passes for 91 yards and a pick against the Vikings blitz. They blitzed them on 45.5% of dropbacks after just blitzing at a 22% rate the week before against the Giants.
Yeah. So, these young guys, if you hit them, they will get scared. They'll think about it coming. And then, if you just keep hitting them, they'll stay down. Like, Stafford is like the complete other way, where if you knock him down, it's like he almost like learned from that experience, like in real time. Like, Brock Purdy, even like the really good ones right now, like CJ Stroud, once they kind of get hit that one time, it is not easy for them to like fully recover to where they should be playing on that level. So I hope we send a lot of blitzes. Have we seen? No. I mean, like, I don't even know if we saw a blitz last week.
Well,
I think we saw one.
We've seen a few, but you're not sending max blitz. You're not sending 6 players. You're sending 5. or you're sending 3 rushing the passer, and then that 4th player is blitzing, and that's what the Vikings did so well. 8 different Vikings generated multiple pressures. And I mentioned Jonathan Grenard; he was one of them. He totaled a team high 5 pressures and 1 sack across 29 pass rushes, which is a 17.2%, which is just nuts. I mean, they're doing everything that they could possibly need to do to generate pressure. And like I mentioned, you could have 6 guys at the line of scrimmage, but you don't always have to show blitz. Like, you're showing blitz there, but you don't have to actually press the red button and blitz the players. They could drop back in coverage. They could spy Brock Purdy. They could move with players that are in the slot. They did that a lot of the time against the Niners. And, I don't have this 100% perfectly broken out for you guys, but a little bit about the methodology that I think that Chris Shula can pull from. And in terms of stopping the run, I think even with Jordan Mason forcing missed tackles, the 49ers offense averaged just 0.2 yards before contact per carry on design runs in week 2. It was their lowest in a game since week 12 of 2022. So potentially a good sign for the Rams if they can kind of knock him around a little bit. And I just want to show this stat on Jared Verse, because Jared Verse, among all edge defenders, he is 3rd. This is all edge defenders. This isn't just rookies. 3rd with an 83.0 run defense grade, and it's showing up on tape. He has 4 run stops, which is tied for 3rd, and he's got a 24.3% pass rush win rate. So let your guys go to work. I mean, they are averaging 141 rushing yards per game, as we mentioned. Mason's at 5.1 yards per pop, but the Rams are allowing 197 rushing yards per game. That is the 3rd worst in the league.
The stuff with Verse, while it should 100% be celebrated, it makes me upset knowing that there was at least I thought at one point that we would have Aaron Donald this year.
Yeah, I thought you were going to have it all.
Yeah.
Because if Aaron Donald's on the line of scrimmage, he's eating up double and triple teams. Jared Verse, I mean, probably you have a win, first of all, but then you also have a higher likelihood of him winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year, which Donald did back in 2014. But one of the examples that I think Chris Shula can get into real quick before we jump into Nick's picks is getting a tight front. You've seen the Rams do this in previous years. I think this was back in 2021 or 2022.
That's Russell Wilson back there. So this was quite a while ago.
Oh, this might be the Brandon Staley year, actually, I would think, because Russ was in Denver in 22. It may be 21. Because I'm looking at Ernest Jones, I see Justin Hollins, I see Leonard Floyd, I see Greg Gaines, Donald at 4i. I think that's Brockers. So we might have to go back to 2020 for this one. But you got to get in a tight front. This is a really good example of a tight adjustment, and it's from Match Quarters. Make sure to look him up. He's great. But it's what you have is you have a 3-man line with a nose tackle lined up over the center and 2 defensive tackles. So Fisk and Kobe in this situation lined up over the inside shoulders of the tackles at the 4i. And so with 2 guys at the 4i crashing those B gaps, all of the interior run gaps are accounted for. And running backs are forced to go east and west versus north and south, which is how Jordan Mason likes to run. And it gives guys like, if they're not going north and south, they're going to have meetings with Jared Verse and Byron Young. And I think that's what's missing right now with the Rams' defense.
I think there's a lot missing right now, but that is a definite thing that is missing. It's a huge piece. You know what? We're at the end of the analysis of the episode. I don't think you convinced me that we're going to win this week.
I didn't.
No.
Well, the main thing was trying to replicate Brian Flores' offense, simplify the game plan with Matthew Stafford. And I guess I'll go with my 3rd key, as always. Be able to execute on special teams. Josh Carty, please be healthy and be able to take the easy points versus at the end of the half, throwing the ball out of the end zone and hoping for a flag.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they picked that flag up, but still, I mean, we were losing that game either way.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. But I think I'm ready for some Nick's picks. I'm ready to turn the page.
Let's do it. Let's hop into Nick's picks.
All right, let's do it. One more time. Nick's picks. Let's do it.
Nick's picks. Here we are. We're at week 3 of Nick's picks. I talked to the people at Autograph. They told me no more theme songs until you have a winning week. And I'm so sorry to tell you all that. But yeah, 0-2, terrible start to the season. but that's okay because at Knicks Picks, we know what we're doing over here. We have a whole team of producers back there behind my office wall, and they are working hard for you guys. But Dean's locks should not go under the radar. Are also 0-2,
That's
just
true.
like the Rams.
That's true. Why you didn't have to bring that up? Why'd you bring that up?
Because I'm stalling so you can write in the things that you have to write in right now. But let's get started. I'm going to start us off in the early window, as we always like to do. I'm going to do early window, 4 o'clock, and then early again, and then random just for fun. But let's start us off. Giants at Browns. The Browns have not looked good on offense this year at all. They only won last week because the Jags couldn't get out of their own way. 2 yards away from the end zone twice, 1st and goal. Twice they managed to not score. It's a penalty. It pushes them back. Bad play calling, doesn't matter. The Browns were able to contain them, which is really their only strength. Deshaun Watson, he's just not the guy. Jameis Winston, also probably not the guy. But for now, they're going to run with Deshaun until he does something stupid enough to lose the job. And he does just enough to get over that hump. He did just enough last week to get over that hump. But as much as Deshaun isn't the guy, Daniel Jones is more of not the guy, if that makes any sense. Do I think the Giants are strong enough to grab a road win here? I'm not sure. But I do think this has the makings of one of the worst games to watch all week, which is why here at Knicks Picks, we're all over it. I just think as a standard token gambling rule, when there's just 2 really bad teams and the spread is really high, just give me the team with the more points. I'm taking Giants plus 6.5. I'm going off of grunt defense. I don't think either team can beat the other by more than 3 points. This game has 6-3 at halftime written all over it. So I'm going to say 18-19. Maybe the Browns pull it out. Maybe they don't. But I think the Giants cover easily.
All right. I think that's fair because the Browns offense has been so putrid, just holistically watching both of those teams. 6.5 seems like a fair line.
Right. I mean, like, I wish it was 7, but I'll grab it at 6.5. And then we have Lions at Cardinals. I think this should be stated. Jared Goff is undefeated in Arizona. When the Rams were just okay, he's undefeated in Arizona. When the Lions were almost winless in his first season there, he won in Arizona. It does not matter. Put this man in the desert, and he will step up. Going off of a bad performance last week from the Lions, I just can't see them, getting beaten by this Cardinals team at all. Aiden Hutchinson is going to feast on Kyler and be able to actually tackle him. Unlike our defensive lineman last week, it's hard to really put a finger on where the Cardinals are right now as a team. It feels like they could have been 2-0, but they blew it against the Bills. And then they look like one of the best teams against us, but we're, like on stretchers here. So who's to really say what their skill level is? But I do trust the Campbell Lions right now. They are legit. They are going to rally after a loss. And I'm just going to trust my boy Goff in a town he's never lost. We can all just turn the page on this one. If it looks bad, and it looks like we're going to be 0-3, turn this game on and watch the Cardinals lose. 28-17, line looks good. They get their groove back. I'm also going to take the under 51.5. Call me crazy, but I feel like when it's early in the season and the number is that high, I just don't trust it. So I'm going to go under.
Yeah, Lions coming off of a tough loss. The Cardinals are starting to smell themselves. Kyler Murray's tweeting the yawn emoji.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know.
Act like you've been here, Kyler. Come on. That was
after last week, I think I'm even kind of rooting for the Lions in that game. What do you got next?
Eagles at the Saints. We're going back to the early window. You know what? Give me the Saints. I was off them last week, and I was wrong. And I'm not going to sit here and act like in previous years, which I have done, and just continuously keep riding a bad hand. I think last year I lost 3 times in a row betting against the Texans. I'm man enough now to admit that I was wrong. And the Saints have scored on every possession they've had the ball this year. Will Vic Fangio slow them down, the Eagles defensive coordinator? I don't think so. They only got to Kirk Cousins once, and that man is the most stationary quarterback you've ever seen. They also let Kirk drive down the field so fast, in that final minute and 30 that he gave the Eagles almost too much time to come back. I just don't foresee Derek Carr having a problem with this Eagles secondary at all. I love what I'm seeing from Who Dat Nation. Is it Who Dat or Who Day?
Who Day?
I thought it was Who Day going to beat them. I think it's Bengals is Who Day and Saints are Who Dat. Who gives a shit?
That's right.
Nice seeing a sorry franchise like the Saints, though, kind of climb out of the crap. I'll take Saints -2. 30-23. I think Saints take the dub. So let's run it back. Giants +6.5.
Okay.
Lions over the Cardinals. I don't want the spread there. I just don't want it. Over 51.5 in the Lions game. Saints -2 over the Eagles. And then my quick pick, maybe the one I feel most confident about, is a bounce back Bengals -7 over the Washington Commanders.
Okay. I love it. All right. I think that's all pretty solid. No, I do not have a lock. I'm not going with the lock.
Nick's Picks is brought to you by Nintendo, the Rams, and Jared Goff.
No, I do not have a. Should I have a lock this week? I'll come.
Yeah, you got to put something. I'm going up against you.
How about this one? Probably going to get it at good odds. Somebody's got to get red zone targets if the Rams even get there. I'm going to go Colby Parkinson, anytime touchdown score.
I was going to text you. We should do a parlay of Whittington anytime touchdown score and Kyron. But if you like Parkinson,
I think I do. I like Whittington too, but there's something just tell me about Parkinson. They're going to maybe simplify, maybe go heavier personnel groupings. They've been in.
Yeah, but remember in that Lions game, they wanted to get Whittington in on the jet sweep.
I know. Touchdown. Yeah. Thanks to AJ Curie, that never happened. Yeah, that stinks. It was just wiped out. Rams fans, we appreciate you guys so much. Nick, I appreciate you, my brother.
I appreciate you doing this episode at 9:14 p.m. Or is it 10:14 for you now?
10:14.
10:14 p.m. That's a patron saint of the Rams hood right there.
We have fun doing it. And we very much appreciate you guys. This is definitely one I want you guys to jump into. Listen to it all the way through, whether it's on Apple Pods, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on YouTube.
Whether it's on Autograph.
And it's on Autograph, exactly. Also, make sure to get us on X, daily Rams content, everywhere you could possibly need it. And
if you don't have X, you can find us on Twitter, either or.
Yeah, comment your thoughts and reply to us on Twitter. Just try not to be too rude, or you'll get a rude response back. As some of you have seen.
Dean can't help himself if somebody says something asinine. He has to respond, which I think is great, because sometimes these people will comment something really dumb for no reason. I don't get it. And hey, if you made it all this way through and you are going to comment something dumb, go for it, because then you listened and at least you did that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. We love you guys. We will talk to you again probably Sunday after the game. And as always, go Rams.
Go Rams, everybody. Appreciate you listening.
Peace. Appreciate everybody who goes to Rams House this weekend. Everybody that stands up to Niners fans, doesn't sell their season tickets, gets the McVay bobblehead. We appreciate you guys. Enjoy it. Try not to get in a fight, and we'll talk to you soon.